And incidentally enough, to these extremists in the left group that are saying that other people shouldn't get to free speech, there's a place in the world that you would enjoy living in. I think it's called North Korea, because that's what they dictate. Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Meet Me in the Center. My name is Andrew. There's not going to be any big introduction here, just jumping right back into the Freedom of Speech and Expression series. So here's the video. Enjoy. What worries me about all of this movement towards some deserve it and some don't is that people are really blind. I don't think they've had so many freedoms for so many years that I don't think that they realize that once they're gone, they never get them back. So I think that is unfortunately the danger, and leads me into my next thing that I want to talk about this, which is who's endangering free speech. I think right now it's there are two major groups that are endangering it. First of all, government. Government is always going to. Government's always going to be a danger to this. They may not necessarily mean to be a danger to it, but they become a danger anyway. I'll use an example. So, in Canada, for instance, they did a bill, and I'm going to talk about it more in detail in another section of this video, actually. But they basically released this bill, and it basically said that you had to, in a nutshell, it said that you had to call a person by their preferred pronouns. Had to. So they're forcing you to call them whatever. That takes away your free speech, because if you actually have free speech, you can call them whatever you want. So governments can either take it either because they think they're doing a good thing, or they can also take it because, generally speaking, although freedoms are nice for their people, it makes it harder for government to do their job if their people have freedoms. If a government can do whatever it wants because their people don't have freedoms to stop them, then that's much easier for that government. And so anytime the government can get away with something that erodes any amount of that freedom, they're going to take it. Look at what happened after 9/11 in the States. 9/11 happens, and you find out in the States that your government is spying on you, and they're like, well, yeah, but we could stop things like 9/11 in the future if this continues. And you're like, okay, I want my safety and my security, so I guess I'm okay with this. They should not have a right to spy on their own citizens. That should not be a thing that's happening. And yet it is, because if you give them that chance, they're always going to do it. So that was taken away, and Americans lost certain freedoms that day that they'll never get back. So they are going to take it. So it's up to the people to protect their own rights. It always has been throughout history. Whoever's in power wants to take away, and the people always have to fight that. And up until recently, the largest fighters for free speech were liberals. And unfortunately, now they are the ones posing the most danger to freedom of speech currently. Mainly in the U.S., but also we're seeing it in Canada too. Now, I want to just make a point before I go forward with this. Okay, I don't mean every single liberal. There is a subsection of more extreme liberals that is against people having free speech for whatever reason. They claim it's for one thing. I would probably argue it's not that, and it's actually something else. But I don't want to necessarily get into that here. That being said, they seem to be the ones that always get on the media to talk about it. They seem to be the vocal minority, essentially, in the liberal, within the people that are liberal. The problem I have is with the average liberal who doesn't necessarily believe to that extreme depth. Because these days it feels like they are more likely to, instead of stand for what they believe in, just kowtow to these extremists and be like, well, I don't want problems for myself, so okay, I guess I'll go with this. They have some points, even if most of what they're saying is ridiculous. They have some points, so I guess I can. You need to stop doing that, especially when it comes to free speech. If you believe something, you need to stand up for it. And that's true on the right, on the left, in the center, everywhere. If you don't, no one will. That's it. So how are these extreme liberals eroding? Well, I've seen multiple examples online of people. Generally, there's an individual who goes to universities in the U.S. and I forget his name offhand. I have a horrible memory for names, but you can probably find it on YouTube. He has a bunch of videos. If I remember, I'll put Peter Boghossian. Peter Boghossian. Don't ask me to spell his last name. If I remember, I'll put that in the description below as well. He goes on to them, and what he does is he does a little exercise where he'll make a statement, and then he'll ask students whether they agree and disagree, and he has different lines for if you, like, for instance, if you slightly agree, if you strongly agree, if you slightly disagree, strongly disagree. And then what he also does is he checks their biases. So he always asks them, I don't know what it would take to change your mind, but let's pretend for a second that there is something that would change your mind. In the best case scenario, I have that information. If I showed you that information, would you change your mind? And by the way, not even change your mind from, like, say you're on strongly disagree. Wouldn't change your mind to, like, strongly agree, just change your mind to slightly disagree. And it's very interesting. The most liberal people on those will never change their mind because they know they're right. That just means, incidentally, that they're, at that point, it's a cause, and it's almost like it's almost like a religious belief in what they believe in at that point. It's a very good way to tell when you're debating someone, actually, what type of debate you're going to have. If you ask them something similar, like, say, I don't need to know what I would need to prove to you, but let's say there's something in this that some piece of information that came out, some statistics, something like that came out, and it went against what you believed, and it proved that what you were saying was actually untrue. Would it be able to change your mind? And then they'll explain yes or no, and so on and so forth. But if they say no, that's generally a debate I don't want to have in the first place, because it doesn't matter what you say. You're number one, they're not going to be listening. Number two, they know they're right, so you're wrong automatically. Number three, there's no point, because they're not going to change their minds anyway. I would much rather have a debate with someone that's kind of more, maybe not in the middle per se, but is more willing to listen and hear, and potentially at least have what you say impact their opinions. It may not change them, and that's fine. Like, I don't expect to change everyone's opinions. Even in videos like this, I don't actually expect to change anyone's opinions. I just hope that you listen with an open mind, and maybe it goes into your thought processes next time you think about it. But anyway, I can remember one incident where he had something about transgender people, and this group of people, well, first of all, they started hollering at him from the top of a building and, giving him the middle finger and that. So their free speech is okay if they do that. But if his free speech of putting a statement on a piece of, on a piece of paper, that wasn't okay. And they came down and tried to argue with him and how it was wrong. And he's a very smart person. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he's a fascinating person, because without being at all aggressive or without even saying, well, this is your hypocrisy, he can show people's hypocrisies, basically. So there's examples like that. There's also an example of Kaitlin Bennett at Ohio University. If you don't know about Kaitlin Bennett, it's a very interesting story. So Kaitlin Bennett has her own media that she does online, and a lot of the left take issue with her because, part of why is because at her graduation at a university in the States, she was photographed with guns at the graduation. You can think what you want about that. I think it's very, very tone deaf, personally, considering all of the school shootings and stuff that happened in the States. It was completely her right to do it. It was legal to do, but very, very tone deaf. She also is a person who knows what she's talking about and is willing to debate people if they're willing to debate. And she goes to Ohio University and she starts debating, and a couple people are like, start, and then like she challenges their belief, and this is how it's almost a religion at this point. First of all, they're told what to believe. They don't look at any arguments for or against it. They don't look at evidence. They don't look at research. They don't look at anything. They're just, oh, I'm a good person. I need to believe this. So they're told, oh, you have to believe this. This is important. And if not, you're a horrible person. So she goes in and she starts debating with them. And with the couple that would actually debate with her at the beginning, she wiped the floor with them. Now, to be fair, she is prepared for this. She knows what she's going to be talking about, so she can have the stats ready. She can have all that. She can have all that ready. They're coming in unknown, so they're going to be blind. So they obviously have a disadvantage to begin with, and that's fine. And so I give them some leeway there, but they didn't have a single argument. Their argument was like, yeah, well, it's a bad thing. And she's like, well, why is it a bad thing? And they can't even say why it's a bad thing. They were just told that it was a bad thing, so it must be a bad thing. So essentially, a crowd starts gathering around her, and they start. Long story short, it essentially becomes a mob, and they were throwing stuff at her. Coffee got thrown at her. They were pushing into her. They were trying to intimidate her to go away, essentially. At one point, interestingly enough, a campus police officer comes, and she's like, can you help get me out of here? And he's like, no, I won't help you. And by the way, you're inciting this mob, so you're going to be charged if anything happens. What? First of all, that campus police officer needs to be fired. Second of all, because he's not protecting anyone. He's sure as hell not protecting her. Second of all, they may have formed because she was there, but she does not control their actions. They are against her. So that's like saying to someone who, I don't know, that's like saying someone who was mugged, well, you had the money, so it's your fault. which is just ridiculous. So anyway, it escalates, and it keeps escalating, and it keeps escalating. And essentially, what the video's online. You can watch it on YouTube. Caitlin Bennett, Ohio University, if you want to see what happened. But essentially, it is one group throwing a temper tantrum because they can't handle the fact that someone is intelligent who actually has an argument against what they believe, because they have never even thought about it for more than 10 seconds when they were told to believe it. Don't be like that, by the way. Don't just learn. It takes 10 seconds to go on Google and research this stuff. It comes up, and you just have to look at a couple different things and then try to find some stats on it afterwards. It's not that hard to do this anymore, people. It's not like you have to go to a library to get this information. It's in your phones, for God's sakes. Like, if you're told to believe something, well, first of all, if I'm told to believe something, I generally tend not to just believe it because you say so. I don't take people at their word. I assume that people have ulterior motives for saying that. So I do my research. I do my due diligence, and everyone should. And if you don't have a good opinion, why are you trying to debate someone that clearly is well educated on this matter? That's my second thing. But anyway, so these children, and I use children because they were children throwing a hissy fit. They were throwing a temper tantrum because they couldn't handle that this one person was challenging their belief system. They, like I said, they swarmed her, they assaulted her, they threw things at her. It got to a point where they had to leave. She had a security guard. The security guard got her out to their car, their vehicle that they came in. And people encircled the car and started banging on it and refused to allow them to leave. Okay. That's a crime. Along with assault, that is a crime. You can't prevent someone from leaving. It's called false imprisonment. That's a big issue. And it's interesting because I kind of wanted to see, after I watched that video, I kind of wanted to see what the left was saying about it. So I looked at reactions to that, more specifically, people on the left. And all these people were like, oh, she deserved it because she was being obnoxious, or she deserved it because reasons. And they were all stupid reasons. First of all, it generally went along the lines of she was being obnoxious, she was being offensive, or she just deserved it because she's a bad person. Okay, well, you thinking she's a bad person is just your opinion. You don't know her enough to say that, number one. And okay, if she's obnoxious or if she's being offensive, so be it. She's being obnoxious and offensive. Okay, that in your mind says that she deserved to be assaulted. That in your mind says that she deserves to be stopped from leaving, being falsely imprisoned. And to people who had these opinions, I do have a question for you. So if someone else determines that you're being offensive, or that you're being obnoxious, or you deserved it because you're a bad person, does that mean that they get to assault you? Does that mean that they can stop you from leaving when you want to leave? Oh no, because then you scream and cry and call yourself the victim, right? Yeah. So that's hypocritical, and I don't stand for shit like that. That's one of the reasons I left I left the left. And this is happening, like that's a filmed example of this, but this is happening all over the place, and it's happening within the liberal group. Someone will come forward and say, oh, well, you guys need to believe this, and if someone is like, no, that's a ridiculous point, they get ostracized and they get essentially kicked out of that liberal group. And most people want to be a part of that group because they think they're better for it, or they think they're right if they're part of that group. And well, they're not, but that's what they believe. So they just stay and say, okay, well, I guess I believe this now. This is what liberals aren't understanding right now. If you take away the freedom of speech rights of people that you don't like, you lose them at the exact same time. It's not like you can say, well, this person gets a right and this person doesn't and this person. It covers everyone. So if you want them to shut up, I've got a suggestion for you. You get to shut up first. That's my suggestion. Like, I hate the fact right now that liberals think that they are they are floating above the rest of us because they have opinion A and they're right because they say they're right. So that must make them right. And so they get to tell everyone else to shut up while they're allowed to scream. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, when you're talking to someone, you can tell. You can generally tell how educated they are on something, because if it's a liberal these days, you have a debate with them over something, and if they can't beat you, they just scream. They do one of two things. They call you racist, or they call you a Nazi. Because then if you're that thing, then they don't even have to talk to you anyway, and you shouldn't get an opinion anyway. By the way, if you call everyone a Nazi, what happens when the Nazis actually come? That word means less. So stop crying wolf. Stop acting like little children. And speaking of little children, the second thing they do is they cry, they moan, and they bang on things and have a little temper tantrum because they can't handle it anymore. Because again, it's almost like a brainwashing or a religion, and they don't actually have an opinion on it. They're told what to believe. They don't have their own. They can't base it on anything. They don't do research. They don't look into it. They don't form their own opinion. So of course they can't handle it. Oh, but I was told this was right, and all of a sudden you have really good points, and shut up, so like, that's the issue right now. And if you're a liberal in that group and you disagree, guess what? I guarantee there are more people that disagree with the fact that free speech should only be for certain people than there are that do. Even in your own group, I guarantee that. And so maybe if you stand up, yes, you might be kicked out of the group, or what might happen is other people might stand up too. And that's what needs to happen, because liberals up until recently, like I said, were the ones to protect, always the ones that protected free speech above anything else. And now that they're going to take it away, governments are licking their lips. They really are, because, oh, okay, well, these people think we should take it away, so we're going to take it away now. And they'll be able to use that, and no matter what side of the aisle they're on, they will use that to their full advantage. There's a quote by Martin Niemöller talking about World War II, or the start of just before the start of World War II, actually. And basically what it said is, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So those liberals in that group that disagree, just remember, this is exactly the same thing that's happening now when it comes to free speech. Right now they're coming for the Nazis and the extremists. Soon it will just be the right wing, although that's even starting to happen. Then it will be the centrists, and then it will be the leftists. And you might be the last ones that have quote-unquote free speech. They'll come for you too. And then no one will have it. And that would be a world I would not want to live in, quite honestly. And so if you believe the same, you need to start speaking out. Stop it now before it's too late. And I think it's getting close, unfortunately, to being too late. Don't let the extremists in your group who have other ulterior motives, don't let those people dictate what you believe in. If you believe something, say something, do something. There are many groups that would love to have you be a part of them. I know a lot of centrists. There's been a groundswell for centrists lately, because there are a lot of liberals that are kind of not liking what is happening in the liberal group right now. So we will welcome you with open arms. Right, yeah. So that's really who's attacking it right now. That's who's the most dangerous to it. And hopefully we kind of wake up and we kind of realize again that this is the most important thing we have, and if not, then we deserve to lose it, in my opinion. It is what it is. If we don't fight for it, then we don't keep it. And maybe in that case, if we lose it, we deserve to. And then we'll really see what tyranny looks like. Incidentally enough, to these extremists in the left group that are saying that other people shouldn't get to free speech, there's a place in the world that you would enjoy living in. I think it's called North Korea, because that's what they dictate. There's no talking bad things in North Korea. North Korea, they don't even have a word for love, believe it or not. So I think maybe go live there and understand what tyranny looks like. Because another thing you like to tote is this tyrannical government. You don't even know what a tyranny is. You really don't. It's sad that you think that some of the freest countries in the world are tyrannical. Go look at the ones that aren't. Hey everyone, so I hope you enjoyed that section of my freedom of speech and expression video. There will be more to come. If you did like it, hit the like button, comment on what you thought, and think about subscribing if you want. If not, that's totally up to you. Until the next one, stay tuned. Bye-bye for now.